Hey guys, this is Tarekith. I just wanted to do a quick review of the Stanton Uberstand and the Cranestand. These are both laptop stands for live performers, DJs, live PAs, whatever. A couple months back I got an Uberstand and posted a review of it online for people who were curious what they were like. And I got just flooded with response from people saying that I made the wrong choice, that the Cranestand was the way to go, and it was worth all the extra money. So a few weeks ago at Decibel Festival here in Seattle, Cranestand was sponsoring one of the events and selling their stands for pretty good discount. So I was finally able to pick one up and test it out. And the results were kind of interesting, so I thought people would want to see that rather than me just writing about it this time. So this is my first video review, comparison, whatever you want to call it. So let's get to it. The Stanton Uberstand comes in this nice, pretty heavy-duty bag. This will stand up to a lot of abuse on the road. Don't think you have any problems with that. Comes nicely folded up. The zip tie everyone knows about. It's a pretty small package. It's solid aluminum. It's pretty heavy, slightly heavier than the Cranestand, not by much though. Weight-wise, they're about comparable. Here's the Cranestand bag. Honestly, it's a pretty cheap bag, something you'd get from like a clothing store or whatever. It's like a really thin cloth, not much protection at all. Maybe not a huge deal for some people, but thought I'd point it out. Size-wise, you can see that the Cranestand is quite a bit bigger, folded up. Definitely a bigger unit. Get the sound card tray out of the way. It's also not quite as thin. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but the Stanton definitely folds up thinner if that's a concern. The Uberstand's pretty easy to set up, just like that. Oops, upside down. And of course, like I said, the infamous zip tie, you've heard about this. The issue is that the way this folds up and down, it's possible, I suppose, that you could actually push this back and have your laptop fall over. So to get around that, Stanton has included 2 or maybe 3 zip ties with each Uberstand. And when you hook them up this way, it just prevents that from happening. There's no way for it to fold. Most of the time I don't ever use the zip ties. When you actually have a laptop up here, it's tilted forward slightly. It'd be pretty hard, I think, to actually knock the whole stand over, but just in case the zip tie's there. So that's that, and it comes with a nice sound card tray as well. You can adjust the height of the sound card tray. There's 3 different positions. These rubber feet didn't come with it. I put that on afterwards so I didn't scratch my sound card on my laptop. So that's the Uberstand. Cranestand's a little different, and it's a little bit more adjustable. It's got these cams you can open and close to change the height and the angle. Talk about that in a second. So that is the Cranestand setup. It also comes, this is something new that Cranestand's coming out with. It's a tray for your sound card. It's basically just like a pressure fit between these 2 posts. I'll be honest, I think it's kind of cheap in terms of construction. It's kind of a crappy way of doing things, to be quite honest. And they sell this for $40 new, which I think it's a rip-off. I think $40 for this a thin piece of metal that I mean, there's a lot of wobble here. It's only pressure fit in. If you don't have something on there, it tends to slide out. I think I picked this up for $20 on sale at the Decibel Festival, but not sure I could actually recommend somebody get one of these for $40 if you were to pay full price. The other thing I should mention is that the Cranestand, as you can see, is black anodized finish, and it's almost impossible to insert this card without scratching the finish up on the stand. In general, I find that this is a really scratch-prone finish. I haven't even used mine live yet, but just setting up in the studio a few times, it's definitely got some scratches on it. So not a huge deal, but if you're someone who's picky about that kind of thing, something to be aware of. Maybe you want to go with one of the silver ones and not one of the colored ones. Actually, leave this off. One other nice thing about the Cranestand is that it is fully adjustable. So you can set up at different heights, different angles. So if you don't want it quite as high, you can do that. You can raise or lower this tray any angle you want. Personally, I thought the Uberstand was just a little bit tall for most of my uses. So definitely this is a nice benefit of the Crane with this cam system. One of the things that everyone kept telling me though was just how much sturdier a Cranestand is than a Uberstand. And after playing with the Uberstand for a while, I did have some concerns. There is a little bit of wobble to it. As you can see here, this is a 15-inch MacBook Pro. So yeah, there's a little bit of wobble. It's not totally stable. I wasn't that surprised for how small it is. And honestly, I'm not a person who uses the keys much or the trackpad much when I play out. I seem to raise my laptop up higher over my controller, so not a huge issue for me. But then if you put it on the Cranestand, I mean, there's still quite a bit of wobble on the Cranestand too as well. So it's a little bit more stable than the Uberstand. There's a little bit less wobble, but if there's still someone who's mashing on your keys, or one of those people who wants like a drum machine higher up for like a live PA, then yeah, they both have almost the exact same amount of wobble. I wouldn't say one necessarily more stable than the other. If there is a slight edge, it's to the Crane song, but it's very, very slight. One thing I did notice though is that the Uberstand has 2 feet on the bottom, 2 legs to hold it in place, and the Cranestand, as you can see, only has 1 in the middle. So it's pretty stable front to back, but the Cranestand, actually, you have to worry about this with it if you don't have have it over a mixer or a MIDI controller. Probably not something you're going to have happen, live, but it's not quite as stable as the Uberstand is as far as just that angle to the corners. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting with the Cranestand, and it's actually a side effect of the whole cam system they use for adjustability, is that with a little bit of pressure, you can actually push down on this tray. You can tighten the cams up to make it harder to do that, but in the manual they stress over and over again that you only want to use those hand tight, and this is probably about as tight as I could get it. And still, with just a little bit of pressure, it's possible to push the tray down. If you don't touch your laptop, like I said, probably not a big deal. You'd probably have to press pretty hard for it to happen, but with the Stanton, there's no way you can do that. I mean, it basically locks into this groove in the metal, and that's it. So no adjustability, but you don't have to worry about your laptop sliding forward mid-side either. Again, I don't want to like overstate this, how easy it is to do this, because it's not that easy to push down on it, but it is a possibility to be aware of, and something you definitely want to make sure your cams are tight before you set up for the night wherever you're playing out. Which is the better stand? It's a tough call. The Uberstand retails for $99. You can often find it for $79 at stores, so I thought that was pretty expensive at the time. Looking into the Cranestand, the Cranestands retail for $215. I think right now they're in still for $175, and that doesn't include the sound card tray, which costs another $40. And this honestly just is not worth $40. Cranestand needs to really, go back and rethink this. This is kind of a lame solution. So yeah, the Cranestand's twice as much. I'll end up keeping the Cranestand only because I like the adjustability. I like the fact that I can change the height, I can change the angle if need be. That to me is worth it. I don't see any of the flaws of the Cranestand being too huge of a deal. I do wish it was a little less bouncy. I'd hope that for $175 that it was a little bit more stable than it is. But again, it's not a showstopper for me, and it is just a tiny bit better than the Uberstand. If you're someone who doesn't touch their laptop very often, the Uberstand probably will work fine for you. If you just need to raise it up and get a controller under it or a DJ mixer, I have no hesitations recommending this one. If you need more adjustability or just want to have the latest bling bling, then obviously the Cranestand is the one you're going to go with. Whether or not it's worth twice as much as the Uberstand will have to be up to you. I hope that was useful. If anyone has any questions, post them in the comments and I will answer them as soon as I can. Talk to you guys later.